coverage you can count on. Welcome to Erie News Now Weekend Mornings.
Live look at the area that's currently known as a Ground Zero, New York City. Of course, the site of a former site of World Trade Center towers, now reflecting cool and unreal.
Yeah, and today. Darkest days in American history, but also a day that showed the true American spirit with the heroic rescue efforts of so many first responders.
Good morning, everybody. Once again, Mark Salde alongside Brissa Bradfield. Thank you for joining us on this very special Saturday morning. Of course, we saw planes crash in 3 spots back in 2001, and Erie News Now special team coverage is taking us live to all 3 of those locations this morning.
Yeah, and we begin in New York City, where, as we know, 2 separate planes brought down the World Trade Center towers. Our Renata Steele is joining us live from across the river from Manhattan on a very busy and special day. Good morning, Renata.
Good morning to you, Mark and Brissa. We are here just across the Hudson River from Lower Manhattan. We can see the Freedom Tower standing tall in the skyline this September 11th morning. Of course, 20 years after the 9/11 attacks. A lot of people waking up with a heavy heart this morning. You really, there's no other way to be today. We're here in Liberty State Park. It's a pretty somber morning here, very quiet. We got here very early this morning. There were a lot of people here taking photographs and video of the sun as it rose above the New York City skyline this morning. A lot of people preparing for those observances coming up a little bit later this morning. At the 9/11 Memorial Plaza today, there will be a private ceremony for the family members of the victims. It's a ceremonial reading of the names of all 2,977 victims of the 9/11 attacks. Of course, they did not have that ceremony in 2020, so people with the 9/11 Museum and Memorial tell me they are thrilled to be able to welcome those families back again this year. And there will also be moments of silence throughout the morning as well for the times that the towers were hit by the planes, again when they fell, as well as moments of silence commemorating the attacks at the Pentagon and Shanksville.
All right, Renata, thank you for that report. Gives you chills just seeing that skyline today.
Yeah, very unfortunately similar sky, clear skies like we saw back on that Tuesday 20 years ago.
Yeah. And at 9:45 this morning, a ceremony to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Flight 93 going down in Shanksville will be held on the site of the Flight 93 Memorial in Somerset County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, former President George W. Bush set to head there for that ceremony. Vice President Kamala Harris also expected to be in attendance. Erie News Now's Eva Mastromatio has actually spent the past couple of days down in Shanksville. She's been bringing us some of the stories of the folks who were impacted 20 years ago. She's live for us and down in Shanksville this morning with a look ahead. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Mark and Brissa. I'm in the area where the stage that former President George W. Bush will be, along with Kamala Harris later on, even Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf as well. You could see families are making their way in, and we're told that there's about 500 some family members of the Flight 93 passengers and crew members that are expected to be here today. But there was a special ceremony last night, and we want to show you a little bit of that because there were a lot of the family members there. We talked with the family of Colleen Frazier. Now, she was an advocate for people with disabilities. Her sister, her nephew, and his family, all from Elizabeth, New Jersey, shared how important it is to visit on 9/11 anniversaries right here at the Flight 93 Memorial to honor the efforts of all on board that day.
Every year I feel bad when I can't make it. You know, because I was there from the beginning.
You got to recognize these heroes. They, who knows how many people they saved. As we know, they believe the flight was going towards the Capitol building. Thousands of people. And, these 40 heroes might have saved thousands of people.
Now, Colleen Frazier's family, again, will be among hundreds of family members that will be here, and they all gathered last night for a luminaria. We have video of that as well, where lanterns were placed by family members right under their names in the wall of names on the Memorial Plaza. Back here live at the site where, again, former President George W. Bush will be, and a ceremony will be taking place starting at 9:45 this morning. We want to take you over to the area where there are bells, and every year here at the Flight 93 Memorial site, these bells sound 40 times, and that will happen again at 10:03 this morning. They will sound for the 40 passenger and crew members that were aboard Flight 93. We'll be bringing you a live report coming up in the next half hour on Erie News Now. For now, live in Shanksville, Eva Mastromatio, Erie News Now. Mark and Brissa, back to you.
Thank you, Eva. Yeah, those 40 heroes, deserve so much credit. And we have a lot of heroes, obviously, that came out of September 11th, but the passengers of Flight 93 right at the top of the list. And there are so many Erie connections to September 11th. Some of those people are expected to be on hand for a special ceremony a little later this morning right here at home.
Yeah, that ceremony is set to take place here rather soon, right outside of the Blasco Library, down along the Bayfront. And that's where we find our Elsbeth Meisner this morning. She's joining us live from Erie's 9/11 Memorial. Good morning, Elsbeth.
Good morning, and Mark and Brissa. Certainly a calm and quiet and solemn morning right here outside the 9/11 Memorial in Erie. I'm going to step out of the shot for a second, just so you can see a lot of people already making their way down to the 9/11 Memorial. Now there will be a memorial service starting at 8:30 this morning, where a number of local speakers will be speaking, including the county executive. There'll also be a few moments of silence as well as ringing of the bells, and the color guard will be displayed here as well. Since I've been here this morning for about a half hour, there's been a number of people already stopping by to walk through, pay tribute, read a little bit about it, and some people are already getting lined up and seated for the memorial service that's set to start at 8:30 this morning. Now, it's expected to be about 45 minutes long this morning, where a number of people will be speaking. There will also be a few prayers as well as a benediction this morning, all to honor those lives that were lost in 9/11, not only in New York City, but in Washington, D.C. and Shanksville, Pennsylvania as well. The fire department of the City of Erie Fire Department and a few volunteer fire departments are also expected to be here to raise the American flag once the ceremony is over. We'll bring you more of this event when it gets underway starting at 8:30 this morning. But for now, live outside the Erie 9/11 Memorial, Elsbeth Meisner, Erie News Now.
All right, thanks, Elspeth. Meantime, in our nation's capital, we're counting down to a special ceremony at the Pentagon where 189 lives were lost that day.
Yeah, it's got to be some somber feelings there. And our Washington correspondent, Matt Knadler, is joining us live in D.C. this morning with a look ahead. Good morning, Matt.
Mark, Brissa, good morning. Those ceremonies already underway here at the Pentagon this morning. We'll get to that in just a moment. But as you've all mentioned this morning, really, this is almost a twofold experience, especially here in Washington this morning, where we're going to remember the lives lost from 9/11 in 2001, but also really just teaching younger generations what happened that day, not only here in Washington, but all across the country. Let's give you an idea of what we can expect this morning as well. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, will be leading that ceremony in just about an hour or so, 9 o'clock Eastern. Now, moments ago at sunrise, officials unfurled the American flag on the west side of the Pentagon, where American Airlines Flight 77 struck the building. In all, 184 lives lost here at the Pentagon 20 years ago today in those terrorist attacks. Now, yesterday, recapping one of the earlier events here in the nation's capital, Attorney General Merrick Garland at the Justice Department honoring the lives of those lost on 9/11. Garland spoke in front of the survivor tree at the Justice Department building. The tree grew from a sapling which came from a pear tree that stood on the World Trade Center Plaza in 2001. It was almost destroyed when the Twin Towers fell, but it was revived.
That day is forever seared into all of our memories. The pain, the terror, the enormous loss, and also the incredible displays of courage.
Back out here live this morning, President Biden and Vice President Harris will be visiting the Pentagon, all three sites today. They'll be here at the Pentagon later this afternoon for a wreath-laying ceremony. We'll have complete coverage from Washington for you coming up on later editions tonight on Erie News Now. Mark and Brissa, back to you.
All right, thanks, Matt. And I liked when Elsbeth said previous to this, You know, downtown Erie right now, it's quiet, calm, and solemn, which you've got to expect most of the country to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of all getting ready to kind of mark those moments that played out 20 years ago this morning across New York City, Washington, and of course down in Shanksville as well. And right now I want to take you back into New York City with this live look at the ongoing activities in and around the Ground Zero Memorial, the ceremony there getting underway. So yeah, we'll continue our coverage from all three of those spots impacted back on September 11th, 20 years ago. Erie News Now special coverage returns in just a couple of minutes.
From Erie News Now, this is First Warning Weather with Sarah Tonks.
The sun is rising out on the Erie Bayfront on our Oliver's rooftop camera. A couple clouds out there, but they're going to move out of the area over the next couple of hours, revealing a lot of sunshine for your Saturday. Here's a look at Doppler Max. You can see those clouds really kind of starting to move away from the lakeshore, revealing a lot of sunshine. It is pretty breezy out there, though. We're seeing sustained winds up to about 20 miles per hour and gusts up to 25, 30 miles per hour. So it is going to be really windy throughout the day today, and it's going to be a little bit warmer than the past couple of days. So the past couple of days have been very mild, very seasonal, but today we're warming up again, getting a little bit warmer than average, and by this afternoon we're getting into the low 80s. Now, that's definitely a little bit warmer than the past couple of days. Those southerly winds bringing in some warmer air, but that breeze is going to help you keep cool, and it's also not quite as humid today. We're still kind of in that real nice category. And then this evening, a couple more clouds rolling into the area, but still mild at 76. Now for your 7-day outlook, we do have a chance of storms on Sunday as we're in the low 80s, and we're going to be in the upper 70s to low 80s for the next 7 days. Partly sunny skies Monday, so a little bit of a dry start to the work week. But then we do have a few more rain showers Tuesday and Wednesday. And looking ahead to the end of the work week, we're still pretty warm, upper 70s, low 80s, a little bit warmer than average, but some more sunshine and some dry weather.
Or 8:13, excuse me, on this very special Saturday morning, and while we continue to cover 20 years since 9/11, we're also continuing an animal adoption effort, clearing the shelters here on Erie News Now. We've been working with local shelters to give animals new homes.
Yeah, one of our favorite projects that we work on, and this morning, our First Warning Weather's John Stalin is joining us live from Because You Care. Hello, John. Your glasses are on, right?
Yeah, everything's done right. I'm trying to look good, you know. It's early in the morning. Normally I'm in bed this time, but I'm happy to be out here right now. Yeah, I don't know who you guys are because I don't see you every day. But nonetheless, because you care, out here into McCain Township, and we are helping to adopt some animals. We say hello to Megan Deckett out here, and she is with Molly. But tell us a little bit about today and what people can expect.
Today's Clear the Shelter, so obviously we're trying to clear the shelters. All dog adoption fees are half off. Kittens are half off, and then adult cats 1 year older are free adoption.
Of course, and all the pets are spayed and neutered, of course. And if people want to come on down, they have to fill out an application, right? There's a process.
Correct. We're doing pre-approved applications, which you can fill out on our website. But if you don't have one filled out, you're more than welcome to come out and see what we have.
All right, tell us a little bit about Molly here.
Molly's about a 1 year old mix. She's a really sweet, lovable little girl.
And she's not afraid of the camera.
No, she's not. No, she's not. She's a star.
And she's available today?
She is. She's available today for adoption. Yep, she'd make a great fit.
We have a plethora of cats. I mean, it's something to say. There's a lot of cats. Yeah. And we have about 9 dogs here. Any certain breeds?
Mixed breeds. We have some puppies. We have some older dogs. We have a Springer mix. We have a Husky mix. We just have really just a wide range of dogs.
All right, I got about 20 seconds here. I'm going to scoot around you here, Megan. Say hello to Sammy Stone from Happy. No, come on. Got to get into the frame. We can't talk to you. Let you down. So when you get your new pet, you come over here. Here's my new pet. It's Sammy Stone. Real quick, tell how people can, why people should come down.
Because this is a great place. I have my Leo from here, and they're wonderful.
Right.
I love them. I love them.
All right. Well, Sammy and Stone will take a picture in the frame. We'll post it on the internet. We'll have more from McCain coming up in just a few. Back to you guys.
For the record, Manny, one of my 2 little dogs at home.
Was from there too. Someone better go adopt Molly today. I want to hear that Molly found a home.
I agree.
That would be awesome. And we want to take you now to a live look at Shanksville on the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah, obviously we're mixing this Clear the Shelter coverage with looking back at the 20 years since September 11th, of course looking forward to all of the remembrances that are happening across Pennsylvania, Washington, New York City today. More of Erie News Now special 9/11 coverage when we come back.
I did not know Sammy was there. I think I did, but I didn't.
It was fun. Back with you now at 8:18. Football fans are going to see the NFL's new tribute video to the heroes of 9/11. That'll happen prior to tomorrow's game kickoffs.
Yeah, and that includes Kansas City, where the Browns will take on the Chiefs. Mark will be watching intently.
Sure.
Erie News Now's Ethan Kibbe actually joins us from the airport on his way to Kansas City.
Good morning, guys. A busy day here at Buffalo Niagara International Airport. People coming in, getting ready, hopping on their flights. Busier than I expected here this morning. As you know, I'm headed to Kansas City to cover the Browns and Chiefs and the Browns' first game of the year, as they are perhaps a trendy Super Bowl pick this year. But here flying out on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Security tight at the airport. Passengers still moving through at a brisk pace. The TSA doing a good job of moving people through quickly, but there's a heightened sense of security here. You can feel just that little extra oomph as agents try to make sure that travelers are safe on a day that the nation remembers, mourns, and also perhaps worries, just trying to make sure that everybody stays safe 20 years after one of the darkest days in American history. I'll update you on my flight, my journeys, and my eventual arrival in Kansas City throughout the day on our Facebook page. Make sure to tune in for that. But for now, Ethan Kippy, Erie News Now.
All right, thanks so much, Ethan. Now let's get you back into New York City, getting you this live look across the river into Lower Manhattan. Yeah, the site of the former World Trade Center towers, where so much activity happening again today, 20 years after that dark day in American history. Erie News Now's coverage of 9/11 20 years later continues after this.
Welcome back. Well, most of us remember watching the attacks and aftermath on television. And that's in part because of the hundreds of reporters and photographers who rushed to Ground Zero to document one of America's darkest days. And that includes our news director here at Erie News Now.
Yeah, our Scott McDowell and a reporter actually sent to New York City in the immediate aftermath of the attacks. They were working at a Buffalo, New York station at the time. This morning, our Kara Coleman has more on the week that changed both of their lives.
It is here that loved ones show up and begin the process of looking for answers.
For longtime Buffalo TV reporter Luke Moretti, the days after September 11th on the ground in New York City were chaotic.
I expected to go. That's where I wanted to be. I just felt like it was important to be there in person, to see with my own eyes and to listen with my own ears.
Moretti and his photographer, now Erie News Now news director Scott McDowell, were sent to New York hours after the first plane hit.
You could see the smoke right away. Minute you got close to the city, you knew right where it was.
For the next 7 days, the pair would tirelessly tell the stories of firefighters and first responders.
There's really not words to describe what you see down there. It's just horrific.
This is a little more than I was expecting. I don't think I was ready for this.
And families who at that point were still holding on to hope.
Until everything's confirmed, I'm still going to hope. What else am I going to do?
and others desperate for answers.
I want to find him. I have to know he's okay. Because if he's in a morgue, then his spirit is somewhere else. And he's somewhere else. And then he's okay. As long as he's there, I know he's okay. I don't want him down there suffocating.
You see her with her hand on her head, and I never forgot that. You could just see how exasperated she was.
This is real, raw emotion. Hours into this, devastation that happened in the city. And to me, that was the defining moment. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what it's all about here. It's about these people. It's about a profound sense of loss. It's about confusion.
Moretti says along with the emotions he'll never forget from that week, he's also hung on to all of those missing persons flyers given to him by desperate family members. For McDowell, it's a pair of boots.
I just felt that, there are remains floating in the air of people after these buildings came down, in the stuff that we walked around in, and I kept those boots, and I've kept them sealed right straight through until now. I don't want people to forget, not only what happened, but the patriotism surrounding it.
And both men say despite the horror they witnessed near Ground Zero, there were lessons learned and an unforgettable bond forged by terror and tragedy. Kara Coleman, Erie News Now.
And let's take you back live down to the scene outside of Erie's Blasco Library. This is Erie's 9/11 Memorial. You can see the crowd starting to gather there. We're just moments away from the local observance, again, all marking 20 years since the deadly attacks of September 11th, 2001. Erie News Now special coverage continues after this. Welcome back into Erie News Now's special Saturday morning edition. We're continuing our coverage of September 11th, 20 years later. It came to be known as Ground Zero in New York City, the former site of the World Trade Center towers, of course, now home to the reflecting pool that you see on your screen, and the memorial that's going to be the scene of so much activity on this special Saturday.
And today it's the scene of one of the many special observances to mark 20 years since one of the darkest days in American history, but also a day that showed the true American spirit with the heroic rescue efforts of so many first responders.
Yeah, heroes' stories. We are certainly telling them on this Saturday morning. We saw planes actually crash, obviously, in 3 spots back in 2001. And this morning, Erie News Now special team coverage is taking us live to all 3 of those spots.
We began in New York City, where, of course, 2 planes brought down the World Trade Center towers. Our Renata Steele is joining us live across the river from Manhattan on a very busy but special morning. Good morning, Renata.
Good evening, Mark and Brissa, or good morning rather. We are at Liberty State Park in Jersey City, New Jersey. We are just across the Hudson River from Lower Manhattan. We've been here all morning. The sun has been rising on this September 11th morning. A lot of people coming and going, taking time to just look and reflect. It's a heavy morning for so many people today on this 20th anniversary. We wanted to show you something here at Liberty State Park. A lot of people, when they think of the attacks on New York City, they think of Ground Zero, but there's actually a memorial to honor the victims here in Liberty State Park. This is called the Empty Sky Memorial, and it is reminiscent of the Twin Towers, and it is to honor the 749 victims of the 9/11 attacks that were residents here in the state of New Jersey. It has all of their names inscribed in steel on the inside of those towers, and the length of the towers, or these columns here, is exactly the length of the base of the Twin Towers. And there will be more coming on later here today.
Renata, as far as ceremonies go across the river where you are in New Jersey, what's happening here, not just later on this morning, but perhaps right at this moment?
So what's happening here is there is the memorial service happening at the World Trade Center site coming up in just a little bit today. But here at 2 o'clock, there will be a service to honor those New Jersey victims of the 9/11 terror attacks. The victims' families will be congregating here later today as they pay tribute and remember those who passed away. Certainly a very somber, reflective milestone today. Mark and Brissa.
I can only imagine. Thank you, Renata. Well, at 9:45 this morning, a ceremony to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Flight 93 going down in Shanksville will be held on site of the Flight 93 Memorial in Somerset, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so many of the moments, the exact moments from 20 years ago hold that special significance from 8:46 when the first plane hit the first tower to the moments when those first towers came down. Yeah, former President George W. Bush set to make his way to that ceremony down in central PA along with Vice President Kamala Harris. And we've got our Eva Mastromadio, who's actually spent the past couple of days down in Shanksville detailing the stories of the many victims' families that have made their way to this one ahead of the ceremony set for today. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Mark and Brissa. As we are here in Shanksville at the Flight 93 Memorial site, right behind me, the stage is being set for the former president, George W. Bush. He's going to be coming here, like you mentioned, Kamala Harris as well, Governor Tom Wolf, and we were just listening to a test of the bells that will sound to mark the 40 people, the passengers, the crew from Flight 93. And you know, there's about 500 or so family members of the Flight 93 passenger and crew that are expected to be here. So many of them have filled already, but last night we talked to the family of Colleen Frazier. She was an advocate for people with disabilities. Her sister, her nephew, the family from New Jersey shared how important it is to visit on 9/11 anniversaries right here in Shanksville and honor the efforts all on board that day.
Every year I feel bad when I can't make it. You know, because I was there from the beginning.
You got to recognize these heroes. They, who knows how many people they saved. As we know, they believe the flight was going towards the Capitol building. Thousands of people, and these 40 heroes might have saved thousands of people.
Now, Colleen Frazier's family were among, again, so many that were last night along the Wall of Names. There was a special luminaria that took place last night where family members held lanterns and walked along the wall. They placed those lanterns at the bottom of the names to honor the 40 that were on board Flight 93. Back here live in Shanksville as we are getting ready, just about an hour away from the ceremony that's set to start at 9:30. Again, 10:03, as we mentioned before, the bells will sound to honor those who are on board Flight 93. And we are here alongside media from not only Pennsylvania and across the U.S., but across the globe as well. Reporting live in Shanksville, Eva Mastromadio, Erie News Now. Mark Brissa, back to you.
All right, thanks, Eva, so much for that outstanding coverage from down in Shanksville. Of course, we've got a number of spots with activity going on today down in the nation's capital. A special ceremony at the Pentagon where close to 200 lives were actually lost on that day 20 years ago.
Yeah, where emotions are running high this morning, and our Washington correspondent Matt Knadler is live in Washington, D.C. with a look ahead for us. Good morning, Matt.
Mark, Brissa, good morning. The ceremony is already underway here at the Pentagon this morning. They started at sunrise. We'll tell you more about that in here in just a second. But as you said, the emotions are high, and it's really always high for a lot of military and first responders. Of course, the Pentagon, the home of the American military. And so this is going to be a somber morning for sure. Let's give you an idea of what we can expect here at the Pentagon starting in just about a half an hour or so. At 9 o'clock, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley, they will be leading the ceremony. Again, that's scheduled for 9 o'clock. Now, moments ago at sunrise, officials unfurled the American flag on the west side of the Pentagon where American Airlines Flight 77 struck the building. In all, 184 lives were lost here at the Pentagon 20 years ago today. Now, yesterday, across town over at the Justice Department, Attorney General Merrick Garland honored the lives of those lost on 9/11. Garland spoke in front of what's known as the survivor tree at the Justice Department building. This is a tree that grew from a sapling that came from a pear tree that stood in the World Trade Center Plaza in 2001. It was almost destroyed when the Twin Towers fell, but it was later revived.
That day is forever seared into all of our memories. The pain, the terror, the enormous loss, and also the incredible displays of courage.
Now, back out here live at the Pentagon, I want to give you guys just a little bit of context about where we are, because, again, this is Arlington County, Virginia. Just across the river is Washington, D.C., and as far as the Pentagon itself, this is the east side behind us. They call this the riverfront side. Where the plane hit was over on the other side, basically across the way on the west side. So if you've ever visited the Pentagon 9/11 Memorial, it's right there, and that's where the ceremony will be taking place later today. President Biden, Vice President Harris will be here as well later this afternoon for a wreath-laying ceremony, and we'll have complete coverage and a full wrap-up for you later tonight on Erie News Now. Mark and Brissa.
All right, thank you, Matt. We appreciate all of your reports, but especially today. Well, there are so many Erie connections to September 11th, and some of those people are expected to be on hand for a special ceremony right here at home.
Yeah, that one taking place as we speak, just outside the Blasco Library down along Erie's Bayfront. Of course, that is the location of Erie's 9/11 Memorial, that steel beam that was brought back from the World Trade Center towers to really be the centerpiece of this memorial some 10 years ago. Yeah, we see the crowd growing down along the Bayfront there. As former Erie City Councilman Mark Alexandrovich is the one who really spearheaded this effort. You see Erie County Executive Kathy Dahlkemper is on hand. Alexandrovich there as well, along with Mayor Joe Schember. Yeah, all getting ready for the ceremony itself. Leading up to it right now, I believe it gets going at 8:46. That is, of course, the moment when the first plane hit the first World Trade Center towers. We're expecting a reading from Erie County's poet laureate, along with, again, a focus on the military, members of the U.S. military that have been, of course, fighting over in Afghanistan. Past 20 years, of course, in the aftermath of September 11th. And that's going to be some of the focus of Erie County's 9/11 observance happening down on the Bayfront as we speak.
Yeah, we know that one will kick off at 8:46, the time that first tower was struck. But we will have more of Erie News Now's special 9/11 coverage still to come this morning.
And right now, these are images coming to you from New York City, the Ground Zero Memorial there, as, yeah, we see President Biden, Vice President Harris on hand there. Lots of other political heavyweights certainly in attendance for this ceremony going to be taking place. Ceremonies in Washington, New York City, Pennsylvania, and, of course, right here in the northwest corner of the Keystone State as well. Erie News Now's ongoing special coverage of 9/11 20 years later, coming back after this.
From Erie News Now, this is First Warning Weather with Sarah Tonks.
The sun is shining here in Erie, looking out at the Erie Bayfront on our Oliver's rooftop camera. We had a couple clouds to start off your Saturday, but they're really kind of pulling away, revealing a nice, calm Saturday. Here's a look at Doppler Max. You can see everything is dry right now. Those clouds really pulling away from the lakeshore. Although it is breezy, we're seeing wind gusts up to 20 miles per hour. Some places might get up to 30, especially along the lakeshore. Those southerly winds bringing in a little bit of warm air. Once they kind of go down towards the lakeshore, we're going to get even more warming north of I-90, potentially getting into the low 80s. Now, overall, your weather impact index for today is all clear. It's going to be a little bit warmer. Winds are going to be gusty, and there will be very few clouds throughout the day today. So if you want to spend some time outdoors, it's definitely looking good for that. And looking at today's outlook, those winds are going to stay strong as we get into the afternoon and as we warm up into the low 80s. So it's a little bit warmer than the past couple of days and a little bit warmer than average, but we're not anywhere near anything record-breaking for your highs today. Just a little bit toastier with some low humidities, and then this evening, a couple more clouds rolling in. Now, we could see a couple showers and thunderstorms Sunday evening. We're keeping a close eye on that. And then the work week ahead, we're going to be in the upper 70s to low 80s most days. A couple showers are possible Tuesday and Wednesday, but Thursday, Friday, looking a little bit more dry.
All right, here is a live look down in, this is Washington, D.C., I believe. If we've got, again, oh, excuse me, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Apologize there. Again, we've got our Eva Mastromadio in place as we count down to the ceremony there, of course, where American Airlines Flight 93 went down 9:30 to start time for that one. But we are continuing to cover the ceremonies in Shanksville along with Washington, D.C., New York City, the Ground Zero area, and, of course, right outside the Blasco Library here at home. It's more of Erie News Now's coverage of September 11th, 20 years later, when we come back. All right, welcome back. 8:44 on this Saturday morning. A lot of Americans can tell you exactly where they were when the first World Trade Center tower was struck some 20 years ago.
But for most young Americans, most weren't even born yet. I know I was just a few years old at the time, and I had the chance to stop by Gannon University to ask students there, what do you know about 9/11?
I was 11 days old. I wasn't alive at the time.
20 years ago, the single deadliest terrorist attack occurred on U.S. soil. 20 years ago, before these young college students were even born, or some just days old, meaning everything they know about 9/11 was learned secondhand.
I know it was a terrorist attack at the Pentagon. They're going to go towards Washington, D.C., but they crashed in PA, and obviously the Twin Towers in New York.
While some of today's college students weren't alive on September 11th of 2001, they do remember their first time learning about it. For college freshman Lenny McLaughlin, it was in the second grade.
You know, we were showing videos of it, and it was just kind of like just a moment of like, you know, wow, like, 'cause you never really understood, like, I guess, you know, the impact that it had. You see, you know, the planes fly in, and it was kind of tough to watch.
But for older Americans, in contrast, 9/11 remains a vivid memory. Dr. Jeffrey Bloodworth was teaching a college class that day when the first tower was struck.
So they didn't cancel class that day, but it was sort of everybody understood that it was not a time to really talk about content, but really about kind of maintaining, kind of just keeping people calm till you found out more.
9/11 changed the way America functioned forever, which is why even students themselves think it's important they continue to learn about it.
I think it's very important that we talk about this because it's obviously a huge part of our history and why we are in war.
There you go. Okay?
All right, live images are coming from New York City. The tolling of the bells as the Ground Zero Memorial Observance gets underway in the Big Apple. Again, it's Erie News Now, special coverage of 9/11, 20 years later. We're coming back with more right after this. Back with you at 8:47 on this very special Saturday morning. Of course, after the September 11th attacks 20 years ago, our country was forced to ask itself basically a series of questions on the future of security here at home.
Yeah, questions like, is America a soft target? And could an attack like this ever happen again? Well, our Isaac Pat-Cash spoke with local safety personnel and has this report.
At the moment of impact, our nation's security personnel came to an abrupt realization. America wasn't as safe as we thought.
It was a huge shock. Quite honestly, you think that can never happen, and it certainly could never happen here.
Agencies like the FBI, Defense Department, and local EMS realizing there were fatal flaws in how the country kept people safe.
We had silos. Law enforcement stayed in their silo. Fire stayed in theirs.
You could have intelligence prior to 9/11 in each agency, and each agency may have never shared that intelligence with each other.
Since 9/11, security has been at the forefront of our nation's agenda. First and foremost, in the air, where the creation of the TSA, new technology, and our attention to detail have helped to solidify safety above ground.
You see a package and you're more aware of it, and I think that's what's helped America the last 20 years, is that we're more aware of things that we see and cognizant of those actions.
On land, the emphasis now on intelligence. Both human and intercepted intel has been key to halting coordinated attacks. And Clark tells us that info is now shared with any agency that needs to see it.
Certainly getting local and state law enforcement involved in the federal agencies and combining them together. Who knows more about their community than the local and state officers? It's incredible to me.
But terrorist threats will never just go away. So we asked, is America still a soft target? Robinson says soft is hard to categorize. He tells us America will always be a target, but fearing catastrophe day in and day out won't help our nation's safety.
Do we fundamentally change our collective beliefs and liberties and stuff like that to gain that temporary security, if you will?
And in Clark's eyes, the former FBI special agent tells us that while never impossible, it would now take an incredible effort for anyone to penetrate the country's defense system, as was done so easily 20 years ago.
We often don't get noticed, and people don't even know what they're doing to keep us safe, but believe me, they're out there trying their best every day to prevent something from happening.
That change. Isaac Petcash reporting there. Back down to the Glasgow Library at Erie's 9/11 Memorial. These live images coming from the memorial service that continues to play out down along Erie's Bayfront. We'll come back with more of our special report on 9/11, looking back 20 years. That's next. In Christ's name we pray. Amen and amen. All right, we are continuing our effort to help clear animal shelters here at home on Erie News Now. We've been working with a bunch of local animal shelters in an effort to give some of their animals new forever homes.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite events. And this morning, our first warning weather's John Stalen is joining us live from Because You Care. John, how's it going?
Things are going well. Some folks starting to pull on in, trying to find a pet for themselves, a dog or a cat. Earlier this week, though, I was out at French Creek Animal Rescue in Waterford and met some really fine felines. This is Ruth. She's a playful cat and loves attention. What? Needy. Ruth is among 74 felines from kittens to adults here at the French Creek Animal Rescue, a no-kill facility on Route 19 just past the fairgrounds in Waterford. These cats have been abandoned and now looking for a new home.
We would like people to come here because they have been injured. Some of them have 3 legs, some of them have missing eyes, but they still are great pets.
Kellogg goes on to say that if you are looking for a pet, a cat is a perfect fit for a lot of people.
I tell people all the time, if you don't like cats, it's because you haven't met the right cat yet. They come in every shape, size. I mean, there's hairless cats, there's long hair cats, short hair cats, but their personalities, it's just like, I like when they pick you.
For Clear the Shelter's adoption fees are reduced for kittens, and for adults, a donation is appreciated. It takes a lot to keep this shelter going. Kitty litter and food goes fast.
Any kind of Purina cat chow, Purina kitten chow, what you see right now is actually our supply. That only lasts us a little short amount of time with the amount of animals we have.
These future pets are vaccinated and spay and neutered and are ready for you to take home. Oh, they have rabbits too. In Waterford, and for Clear the Shelters, John Stalen, Erie News Now. All right, here at Because You Care, we have Lincoln, and Lincoln is very excited, wants to go home with someone today. He's a very wonderful animal out here. Of course, they're open till 3. Adoptions half price, adult cats free, and of course, we are here till like 3 o'clock or so, and we're having a good old time. Back to you guys.
Son is the spitting image of you. He lights up my world every day.
Ground Zero
I
again.
see you in everything that he
ongoing
does.
memorial service there as the victims from the September 11th attacks of 20 years ago being remembered, not just in New York City, but obviously down in Washington, D.C., as well as in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Our continuing coverage returns after this.
Until we meet again, my love, rest in peace.
Wow, that was a great book. Well, it's been a busy hour. We brought you live team coverage from New York, Pennsylvania, or Shanksville right here in Erie as well. And it's been so great having you with us as we, of course, remember all those lives lost today.
I do want to send out a quick reminder. If you've missed any of Erie News Now's special coverage of 9/11 20 years later, we've got a special section set up at our website, erienewsnow.com. That is certainly the place to go for that coverage. But again, for Brissa Bradfield, all of us here at Erie News Now, thanks for joining us on this special Saturday morning.
Fearlessness. Not only do I have your charm, but I'm honored to have your name as my middle name. You, Pop-Up, and Dad have inspired me to follow in your footsteps and become a firefighter too. We hope you will continue to watch over us and keep us healthy and safe. We love you so much, Uncle Chris.
And my sister, Cecilia Elizabeth Richard Lawson. Dear Cece, it's been 20 years since you left us. I remember this day as if it was yesterday. You are greatly missed by our mother, your sisters, your nieces, your nephews. It was such a sad day on September 11th. I remember you working at the Pentagon, and when they told us an airplane had attacked the Pentagon, I couldn't believe it. From the building of where I worked at EPA, I could see the smoke, and I couldn't believe that you're gone. I just want to say I love you, and we miss you.